All right, week one officially in the books. No more of this Monday night college football, though I wouldn't be mad if we got that every week. But week one officially in the books. Y'all already know I had to get a panel together so we could dissect week one, talk about some overreactions, some reactions. But before we kick this off, wouldn't be right if we didn't go around the table, introduce all of the great hosts tonight, and a lot of familiar faces, starting with Nino's Corner. Nino, where can the people find all your stuff?
Man, go to YouTube, Nino's Corner Sports. Also Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. It's just Nino's Corner there. So any Texas content you want is there. And also me, Todd, and a few other folks got the SEC Connect. We have shows every Wednesday at 7 o'clock. So tune in there as well.
Yeah, always a great time, man. Always a great time. Jance, my man, we're going to be busy this week, but how you doing today?
No, I'm doing all right, man. I'm excited for this Texas week. But yeah, if you guys want to find me on Twitter, Jant716. Email is jarek946@gmail.com. And then, of course, Jant Sports on YouTube. A lot to talk about over there. But, man, yeah, me and Ty and Nino, and, we got a busy week. So, man, I'm excited, man.
Yeah, and as always, PG, how you feeling this evening?
I'm feeling good. Ignore my wife if you see her walking in the background. We're working on moving out of this room. We're working on moving out of this room, so she's kind of packing a little bit of stuff up. But you'll see her bouncing back and forth. But no, I'm excited to be back. I'm excited for week 2 of college football. Week 1 was so
You're going to see her take the chair here in a little bit and wheel his ass right out the room.
That's going to be the end out of here.
Yeah. But guys, and we talked about this in the green room. I know a lot of people seeing Nino here, knowing what a supreme grasp he has on Texas, seeing Jance here. There's going to be a lot of people wanting us to talk about this Texas-Bama game. And at the very end of this, we might. But we've got a lot of opportunities in front of us where we're going to be talking about that. And we need to talk about some of what we saw this weekend, including the game we saw last night. And as Jay's in the building, before we kick this off, y'all already know the drill. Jay, where can the people find all your great content? As if they haven't seen you on here before.
As if I'm don't live here and I have a room in the back, I'm always here, literally always here. So you know to find me, Unfair Sports, just, search YouTube as well as find me on Twitter and wherever podcasts are download and listen to. Ty, always a pleasure. And I see we got the whole crew in today. We about to talk some ball.
We're talking about now. Is that a Red Dead Redemption 2 shirt with R2D2 on it?
Yes, actually it is. If you all know me well enough, I have a extensive T-shirt collection and a lot of random stuff that populates. And this was one of my favorites. It's like Red Dead Redemption and R2D2. God, y'all are genius.
I'll take Tate has built the white T-shirt brand. Jay is just building the
graphic
graphic T-shirt brand. That's what he's trying to compete with Josh Pate a little bit.
They're taking over. But Jay, one of the things in the green room we were talking about, since the season's back, we're gonna do something a little bit different. Play a little game. Overreaction versus reaction, and it's going to happen all night. So first one we got to do is Clemson Duke. Guys, I'm going to open this up to everybody. Overreaction, reaction. Clemson, they might be in trouble. Nino, I'll start with you. Overreaction or fair reaction?
Fair reaction, man. I mean, well, look, I'm kind of in the middle here, Ty. And it's, so just hear me out on this. Clemson only had 1 3-and-out last night. They only had 1 3-and-out last night, but they had 3 turnovers. All right. They had no punts last night either. Or it was no punts or 1 punt. Their offense moved the ball, but anytime they got in any kind of scoring position, fumble. It was like the weirdest thing happened to their offense every freaking drive. Now, one thing I will say, Cade Klubnik, dude, come on, bro. You got to be more efficient with the ball, smarter with the ball. It was just like he was like loosey-goosey in that game, man, and I was expecting so much more from him, especially after the bowl game last year. So I'm going to go not so much overreaction, but it's kind of right there in the middle, man. It depends on how you look at it, if that makes sense.
Fair take. That I juggled with that earlier on my show, which is why I had that concept. And I was like, was I overreacting? Was it PG? What are you thinking, man? Overreaction, reaction. Clemson may be in some trouble.
So I think it's an overreaction because I didn't have Clemson in my playoff scenario, and I haven't seen a lot of people have Clemson in their playoff scenario. It's just year one in the Riley scheme, and I feel like they don't necessarily have the guys that Riley needs to run that offense effectively, and I don't feel like Cade is that quarterback. So I feel like they're going to go quarterback hunting to maybe find a quarterback that's more suitable for what Riley wants to do. I just don't feel like Cade is that. I don't feel like he's as mobile as he needs to be. I know he can use his speed a little bit, but I don't feel like he's that dude like they have in Chandler Morris out at TCU, who was the starter last year before he got hurt and they had to use Max Duggan. So I think, it's an overreaction. I think Clemson will get back on track as the season goes on and they get a little bit more integrated. And then next year, I think you see Clemson right back into the thick of it, of competing for a college football playoff spot. Riley was a significant piece to adding to this offense, and they will definitely be recruiting back at a high level as they start to progress a little bit longer.
Very good point. Jay, to you, man. Overreaction, reaction.
I think it's an overreaction. I think Clemson will be fine long term. What? Wait, what?
No, I'm gonna let you go.
Oh, my bad. Was it for you, James? Go ahead.
No, this is for you.
No. I mean, I know you feel some kind of way. My apologies, my brother. I didn't realize that Ty skipped you. Like, I thought he was going like in a zigzag.
No.
You closed it out.
You said you thought it was an overreaction, and he went, overreaction?
No, I'm looking at both of y'all like, what? No, but
I do. I think Clemson's going to be fine. Now, granted, as some people was posted in here, and we've seen it literally all over Twitter or X or whatever it's called nowadays. Yesterday, is that you can tell that they're missing BV. They're missing that defensive mind that can focus on defense and bring in an elite defense for them. They're missing it. You can tell. You can tell that last season. Because they were kind of clumsy last season for the most part in how they landed into that Orange Bowl and then get demolished by Joe Milton and Tennessee in that game. To me, this Duke game, the one thing I think we have to realize is this was also the Riley Leonard coming out party, in which I've actually seen him on some draft boards as like the top QB prospect, which is weird. I was like, wait, who is this kid? I've never seen him play because nobody watches Duke. It's like watching Kentucky football because I watch from the basketball court. I don't watch the football field, but it looks like it's flip-flopped since they've lost their legendary coaches. But I digress. I did not anticipate this happening to them, but I don't think that long-term this is going to be a problem. I think that they will correct whatever they need to. This is the first time, as PG mentioned, first game with Garrett Riley, figuring out the Clemson offense and integrating his stuff in there to where he can leverage it. And I don't think he has the talent he needs, which he's going to get a lot of that next season. I think that they'll make it. They still got top tier players there. They just got to tighten it up. And I think they'll tighten it up by the important games of the season. Now, granted, like PG, I did not have Clemson winning the ACC. Florida State was my winner of the ACC. I've said that numerous times. They're going to win the ACC and they're going to be going to the playoffs. I think that they still potentially will play Clemson in that game. If I'm correct, they're on opposite. Are they on opposite sides? They're on opposite side divisions, aren't they?
I believe so.
I think they're on opposite division. Yeah.
They're in the same division.
They're in the same division. Okay. So Clemson's not going to go.
So
it will be
doing divisions or this year, or are they doing just top two in the conference?
Well, that's the question I need to get answered because that's the one thing I do not remember if they were one of them that decided to make that change. Most of them didn't, but anyway, that's uneducational me. My point is, I don't think Clemson was going to make it and win the conference anyway, but I do still see them winning 10 games. So sure, this isn't the national championship team of Clemson we're used to, but they haven't been to a title game since 2018, 19. Yeah. So it's been about 4 years. So do we expect them to go this year? I did not especially not with a sophomore quarterback that came in midway last year.
Now, here's one thing, Jance, before I pass it to you, I will say this, because Steven said 79-7 with Coach Venables, 21-7 since Venables left, but this isn't accurate, Steven. The first part is technically kind of right, but that stat isn't related to Venables. It's related to, since they've had generational quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence, because that 21-7, you're counting 2021, 2022, 2023, but BV was there in 2021, so 3 of those losses happened with him there. But that was because they moved off of the 2 generational quarterbacks they had. Yep. Not to undermine the point that they absolutely miss BV. That's true. It's just the stature referencing aren't 21-7 since Venables left. because that is including 2021. That 21-7 is since they haven't had Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson.
And so let me real quick. Let me go to my point that I mentioned. It looks like the ACC did get rid of divisions, and they will take the top two teams in the championship game. So I was right. I do still see Clemson playing Florida State in the ACC championship.
That's what confused me. I thought there was something about that. Nino, go ahead.
Yeah, also that defense didn't look bad last night. They didn't lose because of defense. The defense played well. I mean, they, I'm not gonna say they were great, but they held their own for 3 quarters. They actually took the lead there for a minute. It's just that every time your offense goes down and they can't produce, it strains the defense. So I don't think the defense played bad. Last night the cornerbacks played well, safeties played well. Also the line wasn't that bad. Duke really couldn't run the ball too much on them. The quarterback was just a different animal, though. I mean, this was his coming out party, but yeah, I don't think they lost because of the defense. It was just like Ty said, Watson's not walking back through that door. Trevor Lawrence isn't walking back through that door. Sure, Cade is a 5-star, but sometimes 5 stars take a little longer to hit stride. It is what it is.
Well, and dare I say that they probably would have been in a better spot if they would have kept DJ Uiagalelei at quarterback with this offense that they're trying to run with Garrett Riley. Because, DJ Uiagalelei is a good quarterback. I just don't feel like he was in the right system at his time at Clemson.
Well, that, I think, leads me to Jance, right? Because we have this overreaction, and we hear, well, they just need more time, Cade Klubnik. But Jance, we just said the same thing about the previous Clemson quarterback, and he just went over to Oregon State and had himself a day. So reaction, Clemson, are they in a little bit of trouble?
Well, yeah, they're in a lot of trouble. Their season's over. When you take a look at this Clemson team, and this is not according to me, this is according to Clemson fans. The expectation for Clemson fans was for them to at least make the playoffs. That was their expectation. For them to lose to Duke 7-2, it's not even the fact that they lost. It's the fact that they put 7 points on the board, and they did it because of turnovers. Fumbles on the goal line. They try to run a zone read, and Cade Klubnik decides to. I don't know what Cade Klubnik was doing there instead of just giving the running back. Because if he just would have gave it to the running back, that was a touchdown. I have no idea what he was doing there. And then all of a sudden, when the score was 21-7, and when Cade Klubnik threw the interception, you can see that the life was sucked out of Clemson. You can tell that the defense said, "You know what? We're done. We're done." Like a mosquito sucking on a man's blood. Like it's absolutely ridiculous that what Dabo Swinney has accomplished. And you know what? This is Dabo's fault, because for the most part, this is a stubborn man that decided to not to use the transfer portal. He didn't believe it. He wanted to have homegrown talent, and now look at the result that they are in right now. When you have a 7th-year player or a 6th-year player, but it feels like he's been there for forever, like Xavier Thomas. When you have Tyler Davis, who's been there for 100 years. When you have, they have, I think, 7 or 8 players that are 6-year players that are not on that roster but are starting. So that's his fault for not upgrading. The reason why Florida State are in the position that they're in right now is because they took advantage of the transfer portal. Now, for long-term wise, is it the right product? No. But Florida State already had homegrown talent that's there. They just needed to put the final pieces to the puzzle in order for them to challenge and potentially compete for a national championship. Clemson, for the most part, when you take a look at them, they don't want to do that. Dabo Swinney's stubborn. When you take a look at his court, and again, he's the only coach that does this. I can't name another, unless you guys can tell me, but has a run game coordinator and has an offensive run game coordinator and a passing game coordinator and a receiver a receiver route, whatever it's called, coordinator. He's the only coach that decides to do this. And when you have when you keep bringing on these co-defensive coordinators in Wes Goodwin and Khan, which, by the way, 2 guys that have different defensive philosophies. They're not on the same page. They have 2 different defensive philosophies. This is the result that you're going to get. Now, it's not the defense fault that they lost, because at the end of the day, the expectation was going into the season that Clemson was going to have a top 5 defense when you have Barrett Carter, when you have Tyler Davis, when you have Jeremiah Trotter Jr., when you have all these experienced players in a top 10, either top 10 or top 5 recruiting class going in. You are supposed to be you are supposed to be at least one of the top 2 schools in the ACC. Because let's be honest here, North Carolina, with all the talent that they lost, they didn't sit up there and lose to South Carolina. They lost a crap ton of talent, but you know why? Because they had a quarterback, and Drake May, 5-star quarterback, who didn't have the freshest start to his career. Right. But at the end of the day, they stuck with him. They gave him the right pieces. They gave him the right scheme instead of trying to force a scheme on him that doesn't fit his play style. And now look, North Carolina has been at least right now so far the better program. I understand they lost to Clemson in the ACC championship game, but I think right now North Carolina has the advantage. So is this more as far as scheme wise when it comes to the quarterback? Is it his fault, or is it Dabo's fault for not finding him a scheme to fit the quarterback, to fit Cade Klubnik, instead of having that same offensive philosophy? Because let's be honest, it hasn't worked with DJ Uiagalelei, and it hasn't worked so far with Cade Klubnik, 2 5-star quarterbacks. So is it their fault, or is it his fault? Dabo Swinney is stubborn, and this is the result that you get for not changing your philosophy and for not making adjustments. The best quarterbacks have stuck around. The best coaches have stuck around and adapted. This is a man that has failed to adapt, and now look at the position that they're in, losing to Duke, 7-28, losing to a basketball program. They're done. Their season's over, and this result is their fault. This is the result that they get.
Now, and Jance, you saw me tweeting all last night, and I was, for my standards, I was tweeting away. Right, I hardly ever am on the Bird app, and I was tweeting away. I tweeted, "It's impressive how many things have gone wrong for Clemson right now." And then on their last drive, Jance, you saw this because you liked it, and then you liked my quote tweet of it. I tweeted, "What's another turnover at this point?" I swear to God, the next 2 plays they fumbled and recovered the ball, and that's when I quote tweeted it, and I was like, "Oh, that close." I was that close to calling gentlemen, I thought that we were getting memed on. Like, all until this morning, I had to ask the question, did Dabo just pull off one of the greatest memes I've ever seen, ever done? Did he just meme on all of college football? Or what? I don't know that I've ever seen a breakdown like that, because Nick, it's crazy. The punting stats.
Yeah.
What did Dabo say? I mean, what did Dabo say? He said, "He says I've never seen a game like this in my life since I've been coaching and playing. I've never seen anything like this." He's
very right.
Weird.
It was bad. It was weird. It was bad.
Yeah. That's crazy.
It was bad.
Now, I do agree with y'all here, right? And Jay and PG, I think that you two make good points if we're saying what was the season expectation for Clemson, and if you didn't have them as a playoff team, then no, right? You're not overreacting to this because your expectations of Clemson were different. I think that makes sense, but man, they definitely need to fix something. Let's keep with the ACC though, because there was another ACC game after Saturday we haven't gotten to talk about yet. LSU, FSU. Now, I called FSU winning this game. I went on the Fan Addict Sport Network show Saturday night. Friday, during my show, I called FSU winning this game. I didn't think it would happen in the manner it did, though, right? I didn't think they would run away with it from one solid half of work, because let's all be very honest here. Florida State handed that game to LSU in a lot of ways in the first half, right? There was that one drive where LSU made it all the way down the field on Florida State penalties. They'd get LSU to third down, big penalty, 15-yard, all the way down the field. And then the Florida State defense showed up in the red zone, really pointing to the lack of rushing attack for LSU's offense, showing that they had to throw the ball. Florida State, how good are they, guys? Like, we see a lot of people saying this is a college football playoff caliber team. Is that an overreaction, or is that a reaction? Once again, we're going to switch up the rotation this time. We ended with Jance last time. Mm-hmm. Jance, we're going to start with you. Overreaction or reaction? Florida State is a college football playoff caliber team.
I think the reaction is about right. I think that they are a college football playoff caliber team. I think when you take a look at the skill position players that they have with Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson there, I mean, you can't really deny that. Their front seven might just be one of the deepest as far as the rotation wise in the country, of course, led by Jared Verse. But he was even the main star of the game. You had 4 or 5 other players deep in the rotation that was able to step up in there and was able to pummel LSU's offensive line. Now, I will say this: LSU did drop 21 points. They dropped 21 points on the board. They could not, just very similar to Clemson, they could not score on the goal line. They had I have no idea how this, well, no, I know how, because 2 players of their own players decided to collide when they should have just caught the interception at the 10-yard line or potentially make it for a pick 6. But yeah, it's like, it's like the Three Stooges out there, how they were able to just bump into each other and drop that pick. But no, I mean, so LSU, even though I think Florida State is a playoff caliber team, LSU dropped points that could have changed the momentum of the game. That could have made it different. Plus, again, Brian Kelly decided to keep going for it on 4th down, when they were in the red zone, instead of just taking the points. They had 9 points that they could have easily had going into halftime, but it is what it is on that aspect. But no, give credit to Florida State. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Their offensive line, I think, does need to have work, because that was the one criticism about them going into the season, was how was these offensive line was going to fare. And Mekhi Wingo single-handedly dismantled that offensive line. It just sucked that nobody else couldn't get there. I mean, Jacoby and Galloway was okay, but I mean, literally, Mekhi Wingo dismantled that offensive line. So they definitely need to work on that, because Jordan Travis literally had to keep scrambling in the pocket in order for him to make plays. But no, Florida State, I think that if we're taking a look at the ACC as a whole and what can get them to that stage, well, I don't trust Clemson, because they just lost to a basketball program. I mean, Duke, for the most part, I mean, let's be honest, even during their upset win, do they look like a team that can upset a top program? No, they don't. So, and then of course, Miami, well, they're Miami, so we're not, it is what it is with them. So Florida State, as far as competition goes, the only school that I think can compete with them at the high level is North Carolina. Maybe Clemson can maybe do the upset here and there, because we all know how they can work. But North Carolina seems like that's going to be the top competition. And I think North Carolina they don't have the horses in order to overall wise beat Florida State. So I think that conference looks like it's going to be theirs. It's only going to be their, again, if they decide to have self-inflicted mistakes like LSU decided to show up against Florida State, then yeah, they can potentially lose it. But so far, Florida State looks like they're going to be the AC champion. The question is, will they suffer a loss that can keep them out, or can they stay undefeated, which can automatically get them in? So no, Florida State, they are a playoff caliber team. I think the game could be a little bit of an overreaction, because again, LSU left 21 points on the board, and it was just a lot of just game management, poor decisions, and just overall self-inflicted mistakes. LSU had like 5 crucial drops in that game, including the Stacy drop, which could have literally been a touchdown. But Florida State is a legit playoff contender.
Jay, gonna pass it to you, man. Overreaction, reaction.
Oh no, it's a reaction. I call Florida State going to the playoffs from the beginning of I actually said it as soon as we played them in the Cheez-It Bowl last year. When I saw that Jared Verse decided to return for this season, when he's a top 10 draft pick, listen to me, folks. He was projected top 10 in last year's draft, and he came back. Obviously, there was a reason. They have the mentality that they want to go out there and win something. Mike Norvell has sold them, or he has thrown some sort of potion on them or some spell, but he got the top defensive edge in the country to come back. And so they showed it. That defensive line was pushing LSU around. And it started to feel like it was last year's game went. Like I was starting to feel like there was just a Groundhog Day effect to it, where you saw the muffed punt, and I was like, oh God, here we go. We're going to do the same thing as last year. It's going to be a sloppy game. And for the most part, it was sloppy. It was overall sloppy as a game, but when you saw them go through the game, you're like, okay, LSU can keep this tight. But then what happened? Just as you would expect. Florida State took over in the second half and made me look good in my pick. I had Florida State winning that game, and I had Florida State making it to the playoffs. Their team is built. I mean, Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson is your receivers and I love Jordan Travis. It's just not fair. Their run game to me isn't there yet, but when you have those 2 receivers, and goodness, and their line did enough. And Mason Smith not playing was definitely saving grace. That helped a lot for Florida State. But I still felt like even if he played, that Florida State would have won it. It just probably wouldn't have been a blowout.
Look, Mason Smith was severely missed. Jance, you made the point without actually saying it. Wingo is there. You give him any help, and Mason Smith would have been that help.
Yep.
They would have been able to play Florida State differently, which would have in turn allowed Florida State to play them differently. So who knows what the outcome would have been. It would have been fun to watch, though. PG, passing it to you, man. What was your thoughts?
You want to know how good Texas or Florida State is?
Texas.
Florida State is so good. They are making Colorado look good because they had 5 players go in the transfer portal to Colorado, and Colorado beat TCU this weekend. So, but anyways, no, I think it's a reaction because Florida State, they went into the transfer portal and they just cleaned up. They cleaned house. They got Keon Coleman, which, by the way, had himself an absolute field day. They got Jaheim Bell from South Carolina, who looked really good in this game. And then they got Jeremiah Byers, a 4-star offensive lineman, out of the transfer portal. Remember, offensive tackles and offensive linemen were coveted this year. You really couldn't come across top tier offensive linemen in the portal without just automatically knowing where they were already going. And then they got Braden Fisk, the 4-star defensive lineman. Remember, we wanted him here at Oklahoma, and he ended up going to Florida State.
Plus Ventrell Cypress.
Yeah, and they got Ventrell Cypress, along with getting Jared Verse to come back, which absolutely blows my mind that he would do that when we all know that this year's draft is going to be so quarterback heavy that potentially returning to the top 10 might be hard. So they're chasing a championship out there at Florida State. And although I didn't have them in the playoffs because I think a team like Texas and Oregon just have a much easier path to get there, and a team like Michigan or Ohio State or Alabama or Georgia, they're going to get the favorable nod with one loss. I think Florida State, they have a shot to go out there and win a championship, but everything's got to fall right. I think they got to win all of their games. I don't think the ACC is strong enough for them to lose a game and then make it into the college football playoffs.
Now, let me hit this right here. Nino, I'm going to need your Cash App after this so I can hit you at this for Quentin. Thank you for joining us this evening. He says, shout out to Nina only with the 2. Then sure to correct with the other 2. My bad, Nino. But Quentin, look, the bet had already been made. It was already in play. I had to do it. Now, what better way for this donation to come in than by passing it to Nino? Overreaction, reaction. What was your thoughts on Florida State beating LSU?
Reaction. I loved it. Honestly, I think I had LSU winning this game because I thought this was one of the games that they had to win because the SEC schedule is going to be so tough on them. And I thought that Florida State, if they lost this game, I thought they had the opportunity to win out and still make the ACC championship game. I don't see anybody in the ACC beating them, and they don't play UNC this year in their schedule unless they go and meet them in the championship game. So UNC has to do their part. I don't see anybody on this schedule that they play. We saw what Clemson was last night. They're cooked grits. Look, they're not going to beat – they ain't going to beat Florida State. I don't think Duke can beat them. Now, I did like Duke's quarterback, though, man. He is something else, man. But look, just their schedule, man. I'm looking at it now. Boston College. So Southern Miss, Boston College, Clemson, Virginia Tech, Syracuse, Duke, Wake, Pitt, Miami, Northern Alabama, and Florida. They're going to cakewalk that schedule. They're going to go 12-0. They're going to play in the ACC championship game, probably against UNC, and that's going to decide everything. But I'm right. Look, you guys are right. I think they're going to make the playoffs here. That game was extraordinary, man. Look, Jordan Travis, my God. Like, come on, dude. That dude is freaking awesome. And just like you said, Jay, a straight up cheat code, man, to have Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson, a 6'4" wide receiver and a 6'7" wide receiver. Your line doesn't have to be great when you got guys like that. If you're getting rushed, just throw it up. Who's going to play jump ball with a 6'7" wide receiver? And Johnny Wilson balled out. Keon Coleman balled out. Their defense played well too, man. So I think it's a reaction. I think they're going to win the championship for their league and then go to the playoffs, and we'll see what happens then.
And this is a team built for this year in Florida State. They've got veterans all over. They've got the leadership. They have this is a team. I saw a national analyst. I don't know where. I talked about it earlier. Jay, I think you saw this as well. They were saying oh, well, we think Florida State's great, but they're really a team to watch next year. And it was just like, no, because next year, a lot of the talent isn't going to be there. Sure, they're recruiting well, but this team, this Florida, they're built to go this year, man. And Keon Coleman, guys, I've been talking about him for the past about 2 weeks leading up to the season. I don't know how he wasn't the talk of the town for wide receivers in the transfer portal. I said this not long ago, I think when Jay was on. If you guys want to, if you're bored, go back and watch Michigan State versus Michigan. Now, if you're interested in watching Michigan State's offensive highlights, you're in for a treat. All you have to do is type in Keon Coleman versus Michigan, and that's the entire Michigan State offensive highlights. That ball did not move and he was mossing kids. And that's when I knew. Whenever it became obvious, oh, that's who we need to cover, they would double team him, and he made the Michigan defense look silly. That's when I knew this cat's different. Now, Eric, I do agree with you here. And this is actually what I said on the Fanatic Network's show is a big reason as to why I picked FSU. This LSU defensive back room, I know LSU has been long time heralded as DBU, and for good reason. This particular room is suspect. They relied heavily on the transfer portal, and I think they've had 2 injuries. I know for sure J.K. Johnson got injured, and they got him out from Ohio State. I don't know what the Denver Harris situation is looking like.
He didn't travel.
He didn't travel, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean long term, right? I don't know what that looks like long term. Hopefully he gets on the field because the young man's talented. He just needs to get his head on right and move forward, and he's going to have a very bright career. I don't think it's an overreaction at all. I got to agree with everybody on the panel. Florida State is a good team. Now, Eric, I do agree with you, right? I do agree with you that I think 2 things can be true at the same time. I think LSU, and I'm not ready to press the panic button for them at all, but maybe they were a little bit inflated, right? I think that can be true, but also it be true that Florida State is that team. Guys, I'm a little bit worried about one aspect of LSU, and worried is a strong word, but for lack of a better word, they don't have a rushing attack, and they didn't have a rushing attack last year. If Jaden Daniels wasn't using his legs, it wasn't happening for them on the ground. How important is that for them to develop this year? Nick, I'm going to start with you.
They got to have it, man. Just like you said, Jaden Daniels is their entire offense, and you cannot depend on him to be everything for your team. I like Jaden Daniels, but look, he's not Vince Young. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Cam Newton. Those are guys who they even had talent around. Like they had talent around him. Vince had talent around him, but he is not of that same ilk, meaning that he can't carry those teams like that and expect that team to go 11-1 or 12-0. So yeah, they got to find a running game, and it's amazing, man, that in the state of Louisiana, and you guys know I'm from there, that BK hasn't been able to secure a commitment from somebody in that state over the last 2 years who can come in and step in right now, because we know running backs are one of those positions where if a guy's good enough, he can play as a freshman. There's not too much he has to learn. The only thing that he has to be able to do is pass block. And, if they're an early guy that comes in early, you can kind of get them in there and train them to do that right. But I'm shocked by LSU not having a go-to running back, because I'm not used to that. We've always seen them have the Leonard Fournettes and, the Clydes and everybody, man. So we haven't seen that, like just over the past 2 years. And it's just, to be honest, if I'm an LSU fan, I'm pretty alarmed by it.
I don't know what Boomer wants. He's on a roll in this chat. I don't know if
saying?
y'all are looking at him. He hit one earlier. He just said PG's belly button is actually a power outlet. He said, did Jay destroy the periodic table because Jay only recognizes the element of surprise?
There it is.
Where did they get that by?
I don't know. It's hard to moderate and not laugh. It's like when we do the Bama Standard, Van Edwards, he's on there all the time commenting. It gets real hard to try and do your segment and see Van commenting, just trying to throw you off.
Yeah.
I have to look away from the comments while I'm talking sometimes, because I know something's going to pop up in yours that's going to throw me off. So I'm looking to the side and looking at everything else and just not watching the comment section. It's always good. But
I know. Now let's talk about some other games around the nation, guys. There was a lot of talk about Ohio State this weekend. And I don't know whether I'm buying that it's something we need to be overly concerned with. I think it's something that you need to watch, but they have to replace a quarterback. They have to replace some key pieces to that team. I was hoping the rushing attack would be a bit better than it was. Nick, what were you thinking in that game?
What was the final score? They like 24-12 or something like that.
24-3.
Yeah,
23-3.
That's alarming. I've never seen a Ryan Day team come out like that. They seem like they were pretty flat too as well. You know what? I was just kind of shocked. I didn't get a chance to really watch the entire game, but I got to kind of sneak in and see peeks of it. And I just thought that every time I turned the TV on, I was going to see him pull away a little bit, because that's what Ryan Day teams do. But I was shocked by it, to be honest with you, because he always has his teams pretty much geared up. And it's like that, at least for the first 3 or 4 games, they're always kind of humming. All right. And they just weren't. So I was shocked by that, man. I didn't know what to say about that, because that really alarmed me. I don't think it's an I think it's really like a real reaction there, because Ryan Day usually has his teams pretty prepared to take care of business week 1, and they just didn't do it this week. So I was shocked.
You know what's alarming about that game, Jay, before I pass this to you?
Mm-hmm.
It was 23-3. And if I look at the stats for the Indiana team, right, they had one quarterback go 8 of 15 for 58 yards, averaging 3.9 per. The other one went 1 for 5, 24 yards. They had 33 rush attempts for 71 yards. They had 101 receiving yards. So it's not like this was an offense that was just
humming.
So it is something to watch. Jay, talk to me, man. What were you thinking?
So I think it's a fair reaction on Ohio State, but I want to put some color to it. But like you mentioned, yards wise, 380 to 153. That interception by Kyle McCord feels like that threw things off a little bit for them. Penalty wise, 5 penalties to 8 penalties. Ohio State had 5, Indiana had 8. So overall, Ohio State was playing their game. It just felt like it was just a whole bunch of unfortunate stuff. But this is something I did want to mention. This was a conference game.
True.
And Indiana plays them tough just about every time they play. Now, granted, the last couple of years there's been some butt kickings, 56-14, 54-7. But there have been some games since 2010 that have become very close. There was a 52-49 game. There was a 34-27 game in Bloomington. Was it 4 years ago? 42-35. Sometimes Indiana has their moments, especially when they get a new coach. They go out there and they give Ohio State problems. It's kind of like how we always prepare for Purdue to knock off either Ohio State or Michigan from a playoff berth, because we knew that they were going to lose to them on the road. Mid to late season, you're like, oh, they're playing who? Purdue? Oh, Jim Brown. Oh, they're gonna lose that game. And sure enough, they always pull the upset because it's always on the road. And so this one being in Bloomington felt like it was kind of a trap, because just as Nick said, they weren't very prepared. It felt like they overlooked them like they always do. And it's like, why do you overlook Indiana when you know they're going to play you tough? They want your head. Y'all wear the same colors, so they want y'all head. They trying to prove who the better red, and y'all ain't doing nothing to be prepared for that. So, yeah, I think it's a fair reaction, but I think they'll figure it out. New quarterback, I think they'll figure it out long term.
That's about how I viewed it. Jance, what were you thinking when you watched it?
No, I felt the same. This should have been a much better performance by Ohio State. But now I talked to a couple of Ohio State fans. They told me that this game they played way more vanilla. They didn't really want to reveal a little bit too much because it was the first game of the season. Plus, you're working with Kyle McCord, who doesn't really have a grasp of the playbook that much. So, and you can tell, like, when you kind of watching a little bit, they kind of ran a lot of similar plays to what Kyle McCord is usually, familiar with. So it's, so I definitely could be that. Again, they play Youngstown State tomorrow. So because they play Youngstown, they got to try to get a little bit better on that aspect. But for the most part, no, I think they got to try to build that repertoire. I think you saw the connection between him and Emeka and Marvin Harrison Jr. It was just not there. Again, Cade Stover had 100 receiving yards in this game. I mean, that's, again, I'm, no disrespect to Cade Stover, but if Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka can't really get it going, is it good coverage for Indiana, or maybe because they just can't get that repertoire yet between Kyle McCord and those receivers. Their rushing attack was kind of the surprise for me because we heard all off season that this offensive line, even though that they were going to lose 2 of their top tackles, was still going to be a great offensive line. They had the best interior offensive line in the country. Yet Indiana in the interior was kind of holding their own there. That shocked me a little bit. I know some fans are not the biggest supporters when it comes to Travion Henderson. They don't want him starting out there. I didn't feel like he played bad at all, but again, like I said, I don't really watch the Ohio State games like that, but we have to kind of keep an update on that aspect. But defensively, they played phenomenal. And I feel like that was the biggest concern going into this offseason was how was that defense going to perform? Because the reasons why they've lost a lot of their games was because of their defense, despite having a lot of 5-star talent there. I love what I see from the defensive line. I thought the secondary did a tremendous job, especially in the way with Hancock and Denzel Burke. So I got to give a lot of credit to their defense. Their defense was the biggest reason why they won this game. And if they can continue to have that level of play, I think eventually this offense will grasp it. They have too much talent on that offense to not get back to the level that they were last year. I think it's going to take a little bit more time. I know a lot of people will reference that CJ Stroud didn't have the best game against Oregon to start off with, even though CJ Stroud threw 400 yards, and yet we're going to consider that a bad game compared to Kyle McCord, but it is what it is on that aspect. I think that eventually they'll get it right. They have time in order for them to eventually come across that real tough opponent that can give them problems. Right now, Penn State is the best team in that Big Ten conference by far. It's not even close. The best team right now. So obviously, in Michigan, for the most part, had a slow start. They only scored 30 points. They had a very slow start. So, we have to see what happens. But obviously, I think Ohio State, they got to try to obviously build that repertoire.
Let me hit this right here, PG, before you go. Ryan Broom with the $4.99. He says, Ohio State trash. He's coming in strong. He says, my USC team put in work and don't hate on us. Defense looks better this past week. The defense was better against Nevada than it was the week before. They only allowed 7 points as opposed to
No, they allowed 14 points and 360 total yards to Nevada.
And where was the Nevada offense ranked last year?
Oh, I have no idea where they were ranked last year. You gave up 360 yards. Come on, that's not better. You just prevented them from scoring points.
Okay, yeah, they were 120th out of 131. But here's where I do agree. Toughest conference with the most quarterbacks in the nation. The Pac-12 quarterback play, there's no question right now. Their quarterback play right now is
it's fun.
The Pac-12 is undefeated right now, by the way.
And the Pac-12
of the defense, though? Is that because is it because
it's quarterback
of
play
coaching, or is it because okay? Because it's
quarterback play.
Bo Nix automatically goes to. We talk about how Alabama is coaching rehab university. The Pac-12 is QB rehab university because you can be poor in the Pac-12, ACC, whatever, and then you go to the Pac-12. I'm sorry. You can whatever conference you're coming from, then you go to the Pac-12 and you look like a superstar. I don't know if that's defense or if that's just great coaching play. Maybe it's a combination of both. I don't know.
I think it's because the Pac-12 is just so weak. But I mean, I'm not going to say USC's defense is bad because they have the best quarterbacks in the nation. Oklahoma's defense was that bad, and we were playing really good quarterbacks. So it's a USC defense problem.
Well, I mean, look, if we just look at the Pac, they've got some really good teams in the Pac this year. Oregon is going to be one to watch.
Yeah.
Utah always. Oregon, Washington. I already said Oregon. I meant to say Washington.
State.
That's going to be interesting. I don't have Colorado winning the Pac-12, but they're certainly going to be a team you want to watch as they continue down their Pac-12 slate.
I've been calling it. That USC-Colorado game, there is a chance that Lincoln Riley is going to get upset in Boulder. There is a chance. I mean, that Sean offense, because it more so for me because of the elevation change. I feel like, with Colorado wanting to run a high-tempo offense, I don't feel like Alex Grinch is going to be deep enough on the defense to be able to keep up with that Colorado offense. So it's going to become a shootout, and we've seen Lincoln Riley before get in shootouts and not win those games.
I think the only thing that I give USC a credit there is I think they have the running backs to be able to go up the middle in Austin Jones, right? I like Austin Jones quite a bit. Ryan Broom with another $4.99. He says, we only gave up 49 yards rushing and 311 yards passing, and most of that came in last minute when game was already over, so stop the cap. Look, garbage time yards are a real thing, no doubt about it, but at the end of the day, we'll find out exactly who USC's defense is. It's kind of hard to tell whenever they're playing teams they should dominate. That Notre Dame game is going to tell us exactly who that USC defense is, because whenever Estime is rolling downhill, I want to see those and in fairness, Mason Cobb's been flying around like an inspired man for USC. He has been a ton of fun to watch for that USC defense. He has been flying around with a possessed, and he's holding those guys to a high standard, right? Like you watch him out there, Mason Cobb, and after plays, even if USC had a good play, he's getting guys together, hyping. I mean, you can tell he is playing with such effort, or at least the plays I've seen, he's playing with a ton of effort, which you love to see. But getting back to Ohio State, PG, I don't think I heard your take on Ohio State.
Yeah. So, I mean, I personally, for me, I think it's just because they don't have an answer at the quarterback position. Kyle McCord threw 60%. And, you know, we kind of heard rumblings that they didn't know who their quarterback was going to be. And then finally, out of the blue, they named Kyle McCord the starter. So I'm concerned for Ohio State because they have a pretty hard schedule. And actually, Jance mentioned it, but Penn State actually looks to be pretty good this year. Drew, his Alar. He looked pretty good in his first game. Now, we probably need to see more out of him to really be able to come up with the conclusion. But, you know, they got to play Penn State. They have to play at Notre Dame. I believe they have to play at Michigan this year. So, you know, there are games where they could potentially slip up. And Wisconsin actually has an offense this year with Tanner Mordecai and all of those wide receivers they brought up there. And I expect that to progress throughout the season. I'm concerned about Ohio State. Their defense looked good, but I believe there was even a quote with Kyle McCord, and I had it pulled up. He said something along the lines of how he thought there were some good plays and bad plays. He thought he was all right. Well, I'm going to be honest. The man should have said he played like trash, because that's really what it came down. The expectations for an Ohio State quarterback is not going 20 of 33.
Look, yeah, no doubt. That's going to have to improve. I'm interested to see what that battle ends up looking like with Devin Brown in it as well. Devin Brown was someone who I was excited to see coming out of high school. But I think, Nick, I've gotten you to talk Ohio State, right? We had that donation. Yep, we've gone around. Now, a team I definitely want to talk about, guys, because they are one of the few teams, right? Ryan's team has gone 2-0. Excited to see what the Trojans continue to do, because Ryan, I'm going to be honest with you. You guys, Caleb might repeat as the Heisman winner, and Branch is a certified superstar.
Oh, yeah.
Already.
I mean, Branch is genuinely like unbelievable. Must-see TV. So you can bet your bottom dollar I'm going to watch every USC game that young man suits up for, because every time he touches the ball, it could go to the house. Like, he is that good. But there's another team that's 2-0 out there. They got a new quarterback in this year. They got a new offensive coordinator, and they're on a second-year head coach, Notre Dame. And Notre Dame is racking up some points. Guys, what are we thinking about Notre Dame? Sam Hartman's come in there, has given you some more assuredness at the quarterback position, something that the Fighting Irish haven't had in quite some time. Last year was, let's be honest, it was a roller coaster, if I'm being kind. They don't have to worry about that. They have a rush attack. How good is Notre Dame? Nick, I'm going to start with you.
Okay. So this is going to sound harsh when I say this, okay?
Oh, boy.
Yep. But it is what it is. I like Notre Dame. I think they're a good team. But they played Tennessee State and they played Navy. And I want to see them play some no-kidding real talent. I'm a service member, right? I'm in the Air Force. I've seen the kind of offensive linemen that the Air Force can pull in and the Navy can pull in. They're not the same as what Notre Dame's going to face going against Clemson or going against, somebody from South Carolina. It's a different caliber of player, right? And so as I'm looking down at their schedule, their first real test, in my opinion, I think they're going to get past North Carolina State. I'm not going to say it's going to be an easy game, but I, honestly, they lost Devin Leary. I think they get past North Carolina State. Their first real test is going to be Ohio State in week 5. That's going to tell me everything I need to know about Notre Dame. So I'm going to go an overreaction to them, even though I love what Hartman's. I mean, he is killing it right now. I mean, that's the way that When you get a transfer quarterback and he comes in his first and his second game and he puts up numbers like that, that's what you want to see from your transfer quarterback. That's how you know things are what you thought that they should be, right? But I want to see what this team looks like going against a decent team, and they won't play one until week 5. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, that Ohio State game is going to be good, and it gives Ohio State time as well to figure out their offense, which, let's be honest, guys, I think they're going to. If we look at Ohio State's schedule, they get Youngstown State, Western Kentucky, and then Notre Dame. That's going to be, go ahead and circle your calendars, must-watch game. I'm going to call it right now. You can't miss that game. Jance, if you're – he's got the open tile, so we'll see if he's there or not, but if you're there, tap the mic. Okay, Jay. Notre Dame, how real are the Fighting Irish?
You know, I'm similar stance as Nick. I think the big thing with Notre Dame is we need to see what they're going to look like when they start playing real teams and playing against servicemen and women. As much as we love them and we salute them for what they provide to this country and the ultimate sacrifice that they made, they're not bringing in big linemen. You still got to pass the physical. You still got to pass a lot of tests to make it. And so they're not bringing in your elites of elites. Hence why majority of them run the triple option, because it's one of those you can do with more nimble guys. And it's very hard to defend, even though they usually get blown out 56-0 or 56-7. So overall, Notre Dame hasn't shown me they haven't shown me a lot, but they have shown me one thing. The one thing that they have shown me is that, and you will hear me repeat this moving forward, because I know what other games you have on this list. If you got a quarterback, you got a chance. Mm-hmm. Sam Hartman's a quarterback. They've got a chance. And that's all you need. In college football, if you got a quarterback, they can carry you. We watched Caleb Williams do it last year. We watched Bryce with Bama. We've seen Justin Fields do it at Ohio State. Hell, at Oklahoma, that's just about every quarterback we had under Lincoln Riley. We've watched quarterbacks carry teams to the end result that you need. We saw Vince Young do it at Texas. You see quarterbacks carry your team. And if you got a quarterback that's competent enough and won't make a bunch of mistakes, you're going to see success. And so they're going to win a lot of games with Sam Hartman. Mm-hmm. He's also a 7th year senior. He's old. So because of that helps. That helps.
Yeah,
that helps. AARP, baby. He's going to be taking retirement the minute that he leaves college football. That is what you need. But the thing is, just that experience really helps. He's had over 3,000 snaps, guys. 3,000. So he's seen just about every defense that's ever existed.
I'm disappointed in y'all. Listen here. I did not think this panel was the type of panel to judge just because he's got a Life Alert commercial where he gets sacked and he can't get up. I did not think this was the type of panel to hold.
I'm just saying, man. I'm saying, Ty. I'm just saying that's a benefit to them. But that's a benefit to them. They got a quarterback that's got experience, and he is a long-term solution for them. That's my point. That's the good thing for them. You got a quarterback. All that told me is if you got a quarterback, you've got a chance. And Notre Dame does have a chance. NC State next week, that's going to be enough of a test for me to say, all right, we'll see what you look like against Ohio State, especially since most of us are kind of down on Ohio State. NC State tells me if they're legitimate or not.
I don't know about the NC State, Jay. NC State
it's got to be a butt kicking. It's got to be a butt kicking.
Got past or fighting UConn Huskies last week.
You're right. But if they blow them out, then they're doing what they're supposed to do. You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm looking at. If you're blowing them out, you're doing what you're supposed to. If they don't blow them out, then I'm like, well, because we can't look at the Ohio State game because we just talked about how they don't even look like they're functioning properly.
That's true.
So this is my litmus test for them. If they go out there and they whoop up on NC State, okay, you got potential because NC State ain't got the old quarterback they had. They ain't got wasn't Blevins?
Ryan somebody.
They got somebody new. They starting over. Blevins is gone.
Good.
I guess I'm the one on the panel that thinks Ohio State will get it figured out by that point and at least be some type of.
That's
good.
3 games though, man. That's the
third
other game
too. Ohio State, like their defense had it together for Indiana. It was just the offense. So it's like, what if Notre Dame goes out there and puts up a 21-point win against the Ohio State defense? Would you not consider that as a testing point that okay, like this offense for Notre Dame can go out there and compete with the best of them, because Ohio State's going to have one of the best defenses in the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what I'm really looking at, is can they get past that Ohio State defense?
I would like to say that and agree. I don't know. I guess that's for me. I don't know what that would tell me. I mean, I think Ohio State defense is going to be really good, but I mean, if Hartman and them go out there and cook them, are we really going to believe in them if they don't cook NC State?
See, that's kind of what I'm hoping they do, because if Ohio State's offense or defense gets cooked all season, maybe Oklahoma can get a flip on Peyton Pierce out of the recruiting.
Maybe.
Oh, Lord, that ain't happening. That ain't happening.
We'll see. Now, Jance, when you were away, we tried to get your little tile to give us the take on Notre Dame, but it was a little bashful. So now that you're back,
okay,
let's hear from you, man. What you thinking about Notre Dame this year? How real are they?
I mean, they're a solid team. I don't think that this is a playoff caliber or national championship team. I think they're solid. I think they do have a tough schedule ahead. I think after when they play against, I think NC State, they have Ohio State, and then you play against a top 10 program like the Duke Blue Devils. So, it's not going to be extremely easy for them. But we'll see what happens with Notre Dame. I think, again, they have a really good quarterback. I don't think he's elite. I think he's a solid quarterback. I think he's good. He's a good pocket passer. I'm not going to sit up here and call him a game manager type of quarterback, because we've seen what he did at Wake Forest, throwing for 4,000 and 3,700 yards, even though he did have completion percentage and obviously mistakes were big time, but obviously they're a huge passing program with the spread. So, but Sam Hartman obviously is going to take his time. They have an elite offensive line. That's something that Notre Dame also has, with top 5 potential projected pick and Joe Alt leading the charge. I think the biggest question has always been their skill position players. Like, they've always had talent, but maybe not the quarterback that can deliver them the ball. The best quarterback I think for them has been Ian Book over the last 15, 20 years. So,
what a name!
Lord have mercy.
I mean, so Sam Hartman, being there on paper, that might just be the best quarterback they've had since the 21st century, since the turn of the 21st century, which is crazy.
Wrong.
It's just true.
It's insane, but no, defensively they should be fine. It is what it is. But
Kaiser got drafted, right? He got drafted.
I mean, he was. He did.
I mean, I don't think they want y'all to admit that he existed. He's one of those players like we don't know him.
No, he won the second round. Yeah, they had another quarterback that won the second round. I forgot what his name. Jimmy something. It's escaping me, but he won the second round as well. Jimmy Clausen.
Yeah,
Jimmy Clausen also won the second round.
Since Brady Quinn, that is a dang good point right there.
And Brady Quinn felt like he was there for a century.
Boy, yeah, but no, I mean we'll see with Notre Dame. I mean, like I said, they've always produced solid teams, good offensive lines, good running games, okay skill position to maybe some guys with some upside, but again, never had the quarterback delivering the ball. Sam Hartman's going to be there. Defensively, they should be. They do take some regression defensively, but the last couple games against Navy and against ICDC College, they played really well. So we'll see what they do. We'll see what happens when it comes to Notre Dame. Probably going to be a 9-win program, maybe 10 and maybe get to 10-2 at best case scenario. I don't see this team being a playoff caliber football team yet, but a team that they're going to get some upsets. They're going to beat some of these big time programs. It's just about the question is who are they going to do it against? But I don't see this team making the playoffs. If they do, it's going to be exhausting, because I don't think anybody wants to see this team in the playoffs again. But I think that they're a solid football program.
Now we have the man of the hour to send us home, right? Last take of the evening, PG, is yours. How good is Notre Dame?
I guess the question is, will they win a national championship with Marcus Freeman? Because, they couldn't do it with Brian Kelly. No, I mean, I don't think they're that good this year to go to the playoffs. I think they'll solidly win probably 10 games this year. And I think there will be an improvement on their offense. I think really you're going to see an improvement with Notre Dame when CJ Carr gets on campus. I think CJ Carr is a step up above from Sam Hartman. And I think that's when we can really start taking Notre Dame seriously as a national contender every single year with the college playoff expansion. So I'm not really looking into it too much this year, unless Notre Dame just goes out there and shellacks Clemson and Ohio State and, puts up an impressive game against USC. At that point, I might become a believer in it, but outside of that, it's Notre Dame.
Well, hard to argue with it. I think Notre Dame is a good team, but I agree with pretty much everyone on the panel. Are they a playoff team? That's tough to say. Are they a national championship team? I don't believe so, but I do think they are going to give teams good games. USC, I think they're going to give them a game. I think they're going to give Ohio State a game, and that's going to be interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our stream for the evening. We're going to go around, let everybody know where they can find you. PG, you said you had to hop off, so we'll start with you. Where can the people find all your great content?
Yeah, y'all can find me on YouTube, The PG Show, or any podcast platform, wherever you listen to podcasts. So we're really trying to grow those platforms, so go give me a 5-star review or whatever they call it over there. I don't know. Everybody's different. Just go follow me over on the podcast platforms.
Absolutely. Nino, my man, where can the people find all your great content?
Yeah, man, YouTube, Nino's Corner Sports, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, wherever, Facebook, Nino's Corner. Yeah, just hit me up, man.
Absolutely. I'll be seeing you tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow, and the day after that. So we got multiple. We got
a lot of
today, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We'll all be back together. Jay, my man, where can the people find your stuff?
You know where to find me, right here around the table sports. I'm usually here every Monday with Ty. I'm the second. I'm the second arm to him. I'm his right-hand man.
At this point, yeah.
At this point, I'm here. I wipe my feet when I come in. I actually got my toothbrush in the guest room. So, yes, you can find me here. Also, you can find me on Unfair Sports. Just search me on YouTube as well as wherever podcasts are downloaded and listen to. So, yeah, you'll see me with Todd tomorrow. You won't see me Thursday, but you will see me with him on Friday. So, yeah, you're going to see a lot of us together.
There you go. Jance, my man, another extension of this stream, a frequent to the page. Love having you on. Where can the people find all your great stuff?
Yeah, find me at Jant Sports on YouTube, and then of course Jant716 on Twitter. That's where you can, want to hit me up, want to talk football or whatever. I actually had a random fan come and talk to me about Oprah. I have no idea why, but they wanted to talk about Oprah, and that's what we decided to do. So, just hit me up on those platforms, and yeah, I'm down to talk about pretty much anything.
Hey, Oprah deserves some. Talking about.
I don't know why. I have no idea. But it is what it is.
It is. Apparently, I made a Happy Meal cry. That's just foul. That's just foul. But, guys, we will be back tomorrow, 10 o'clock Central Standard Time with Through the Haze, talking more college football. We'll be back again, SEC Connect tomorrow evening. Can't wait to see you over there. Thursday evening, we're doing our Alabama-Texas preview stream. That is going to be a ton of fun. And then Friday, you'll see us again. Until then, we'll catch you next time. That's it. See you. Eric, you already know.